Reading through the Bible in one year, January 26th, Genesis 27, Matthew 26, Esther chapter 3, and Acts 26. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could not see, he called his older son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Look, I am old and do not know the day of my death. So now take your hunting gear, your quiver, and your bow, and go out into the field to hunt some game for me. Then make me a delicious meal that I love and bring it to me to eat, so that I can bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac said to his son Esau. So while Esau went into the field to hunt some game to bring it in, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking with your brother Esau, and he said, 'Bring me some game and make a delicious meal for me to eat, so that I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die.' Now, my son, listen to me and do what I tell you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, and I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind that he loves. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." Jacob answered Rebekah, his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a man with smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." His mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me and go get them for me." So he went and got the goats and brought them to his mother. And his mother made the delicious food that his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of her older son Esau, which were in the house, and had her younger son Jacob wear them. She put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck, and she handed the delicious food to him and the bread that she had made to her son Jacob. When he came to his father, he said, "My father." And he answered, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you have told me. Sit up and eat some of my game so that you may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "However did you find it so quickly, my son?" He replied, "Because the Lord your God had made it happen for me." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come closer so that I can touch you, my son. Are you really my son Esau or not?" So Jacob came closer to his father came closer to his father Isaac. When he touched him, he said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like those of his brother. I lost my spot. Do, 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 do. All right, his brother Esau. So he blessed him. Again, he asked, "Are you really my son Esau?" And he replied, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it closer to me, and let me eat some of my son's game so that I can bless you." And Jacob brought it closer to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Please come closer and kiss me, my son." So he came closer and kissed him. And when Isaac smelled his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give to you from the dew of the sky and from the richness of the land an abundance of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you and nations bow and worship to you. Be master over your relatives. May your mother's sons bow and worship to you." Now that's saying that obviously Jacob, may Jacob worship and follow after Esau. That's what he's trying to say here. "And those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed." As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, Jacob had left the presence of his father Isaac. His brother Esau arrived from his hunting, and he made some delicious food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, "Let my father get up and eat some of his son's game, so that you may bless me." But his father Isaac said to him, Who are you?" He answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn son." Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably. Well, who was it then? He said, who hunted game and brought it to me. I ate it all before you came, and I blessed him. Indeed, he will be blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father Isaac, hold on, I lost my spot. I love this, but when it scrolls, sometimes it goes jumpy and it's hard to see where I am. Yep. With a loud and bitter cry. And he said to his father, bless me too, my father. But, he replied, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. So Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me twice now. He took my birthright, and look, now he has taken my blessing. Then he asked, haven't you saved a blessing for me? But Isaac answered Esau, look, I have made him master over you. I have given him all of his relatives as servants and have sustained him with grain and new wine. What then can I do for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, do you only have one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father. And Esau wept loudly. His father Isaac answered him, look, your dwelling place will be away from the richness of the land, away from the dew of the sky above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you rebel, you will break his yoke from your neck. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. And Esau determined in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. When the words of her older son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she summoned her younger son Jacob and said to him, listen, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. So now, my son, listen to me. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him for a few days until your brother's anger subsides, until your brother's rage turns away from you and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send for you and bring you back from there. Why should I lose you both in one day? So Rebekah said to Isaac, I am sick of my life because of these Hethite girls. If Jacob marries someone from around here, like these Hethite girls, what good is my life? Now, that sounds weird, but basically what she's doing is she's preparing to send off her son back to his own, or back to her own people, so that he can find a wife from there. That's basically what's happening. So, all right, let's move on to Matthew 26. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he told his disciples, you know that the Passover takes place after 2 days, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the courtyard of the high priest, who is named Caiaphas, and they conspired to arrest Jesus in a treacherous way and kill him. Not during the festival, they said, so there won't be rioting among the people. While Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman approached him with an alabaster flask of very expensive perfume, and she broke it open and poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw it, they were indignant. Why this waste? They asked. This might have been sold for a great deal and given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a noble thing for me. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. By pouring this perfume on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly, I tell you, wherever this gospel, good news, is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Then one of the 12, the man called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you? So they weighed out 30 pieces of silver for him. It's literally the cost of a slave. If you were to purchase a slave, it's 30 pieces of silver. And from that time, he started looking for a good opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover? Go into the city to a certain man, he said, and tell him, the teacher says my time is near. I am celebrating the Passover at your place with my disciples. So the disciples did just as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. When evening came, he was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. Deeply distressed, each one began to say to him, surely not I, Lord. He replied, the one who dipped his hand in the bowl, he will betray me. Now, this could mean that he's pointing directly to Judas, or he's saying somebody who's nearby to me. And he's not saying specifically who it is. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for him if he had not been born. Judas, his betrayer, replied, surely not I, Rabbi. You have said it, he told him. As they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and he gave it to his disciples and said, take and eat. This is my body. Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them and said, drink from it, all of you. For this is the blood of the covenant. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And after singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, tonight all of you will fall away because of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you to Galilee. Peter told him, even if everyone falls away because of you, I will never fall away. Truly, I tell you, Jesus replied, tonight, before the rooster crows, you'll deny 3 times that you know me. Even if I have to die with you, Peter told him, I will never deny you. And all the disciples said the same thing. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane. And he told the disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. Taking along Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John, the 2 he normally takes with him, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And he said to them, I am deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and stay awake with me. Going a little farther, he fell face down and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass away from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he asked Peter, so you couldn't stay awake with me 1 hour? You who said you would never deny me? Stay awake and pray so that you won't enter into temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went away and prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. And he came again and found them sleeping because they could not keep their eyes open. After leaving them, he went away again and prayed a 3rd time, saying the same thing once more. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? See, the time is near. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. See, my betrayer is near. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, suddenly arrived, and a large mob with swords and clubs was with him, from the chief priests and the elders of the people. His betrayer had given them a sign. The one I kiss, he is the one, arrest him. Well, why? Everybody knows what Jesus looks like. But the fact is that they don't. He was, I always forget the term that Scripture uses, but basically it means that he was just an everyman. It was very hard to tell him from anybody else because he just looked like a regular guy. So immediately he went up to Jesus and said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. Friend, Jesus said to him, why have you come? Then they came and took hold of Jesus and arrested him. At that moment, one of those with Jesus reached out his hand and drew his sword, and he struck the high priest's servant, Malchus, and cut off his ear. Then Jesus told him, "Put your sword back into its place, because all who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot call on my Father, and he will provide me here with now more than 12 legions of angels? How then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way?" At that time, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs as if I were a criminal to capture me? Every day I used to sit teaching in the temple and you didn't arrest me. But all this has happened so that the writings of the prophets would be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and ran away. Those who had arrested Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had convened. Peter was following him at a distance, right to the high priest's courtyard, and he went in and was sitting with the servants to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false testimony against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they couldn't find any, even though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, two who came forward stated, "This man said, 'I can destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said to him, "Don't you have an answer to what these men are testifying against you?" But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said it," Jesus told him. Again, this is the same thing that Jesus tells Judas. It basically means you know this to be true. "But I tell you, in the future, you will see the Son of Man," again, Jesus' favorite name for himself, "seated at the right hand of power, coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? See, now you have heard his blasphemy." Why? Because he called himself God. "What is your decision?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and beat him. Others slapped him. And they said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who was it that hit you?" Now, Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl approached him and said, "You were with Jesus the Galilean too." But he denied it in front of everyone. I don't know what you're talking about." When he had gone out to the gateway, another woman saw him and told those who were there, "This man was with Jesus the Nazarene." Again, he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, those standing there approached and said to Peter, "You really are one of them, since your accent gives it away." Then he started to curse and to swear an oath, "I do not know the man." And immediately a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the words that Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Bringing up the rest of the notes here for you. There are understandably quite a few. All right, there we go. And let's move on to Esther chapter 3. After all this took place, King Ahasuerus honored Haman, the son of Hamadatha, the Agagite. That's just a fun thing to say, Agagite. He promoted him in rank and gave him a higher position than all of the other officials. The entire royal staff at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman because the king had commanded this to be done for him. But Mordecai would not bow down or pay homage. The members of the royal staff at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why are you disobeying the king's command?" And they had warned him day after day, and he still would not listen to them. They told Haman in order to see if Mordecai's actions would be tolerated, since he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai was not bowing down nor paying him homage, he was filled with rage. And when he learned of Mordecai's ethnic identity, it seemed repugnant to Haman to do away with Mordecai alone. He planned to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout Ahasuerus' kingdom. That's again 127 individual provinces, going all the way to India. It's a massive area. In the first month, the month of Nisan, in King Ahasuerus' 12th year, the pur, that is, the lot, was cast before Haman for each day in a month, and it fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Then Haman informed King Ahasuerus, "There is one ethnic group scattered throughout the peoples and in every province of your kingdom, keeping themselves separate. Their laws are different from everyone else's, and they don't obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If the king approves, let an order be drawn up authorizing their destruction. I will pay 375 tons of silver to the officials for deposit into the royal treasury." The king removed his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Then the king told Haman, "The money and peoples are given to you to do with as you see fit." The royal scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and the order was written exactly as Haman commanded. It was intended for the royal satraps, the governors of each of the provinces, and the officials of each ethnic group, and written for each province in its own script, language, to each ethnic group in its own language. And it was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with the royal signet ring. The letters were sent by couriers to each of the royal provinces, telling the officials to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jewish people, young and old, women and children, and plunder their possessions on a single day, the 13th day of Adar, the 12th month. A copy of the text, issued as law throughout every province, was distributed to all the peoples so that they might get ready for that day. The couriers left, spurred on by royal command, and the law was issued in the fortress of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, while the city of Susa was in confusion. And there is all the notes. Let's go on to Acts 26. King Agrippa said to Paul, "You have permission to speak for yourself." Then Paul stretched out his hand and began his defense. "I consider myself fortunate that it is before you, King Agrippa, I am to make my defense today against all the accusations of the Jews, especially since you are very knowledgeable about all the Jewish customs and controversies. Therefore, I beg you, listen to me patiently." I don't know if it says it here, but King Agrippa's wife was a Jew. "All the Jews know of my way of life from my youth, which was spent from the beginning among my own people and in Jerusalem. They have known me for a long time, if they are willing to testify, that according to the strictest sect of our religion, I lived as a Pharisee. And now I stand on trial because of the hope in what God promised to our ancestors. The promise our 12 tribes hope to reach as they earnestly serve him day and night. King Agrippa, I'm being accused by the Jews because of this hope. Why do any of you consider it incredible that God raises the dead? In fact, I myself was convinced that it was necessary to do many things in opposition to the name of Jesus of Nazareth. I actually did this in Jerusalem, and I locked up many of the saints in prison, since I had received authority for that from the chief priests. When they were put to death, I was in agreement against them. In all the synagogues, I often punished them and tried to make them blaspheme, since I was terribly enraged at them. I pursued them even to foreign cities. As I was traveling to Damascus under these circumstances, hold on, I'm bringing up the rest of the notes here. There are a lot in this section. There we go. I was traveling to Damascus under these circumstances with authority and a commission from the chief priests. King Agrippa, while I was on the road at midday, I saw a light from heaven brighter than the sun, shining around me and those traveling with me. We all fell to the ground and heard a voice speaking to me in Aramaic. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. I asked, who are you, Lord? And the Lord replied, I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. But get up, stand on your own feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to appoint you as a servant of witness. Sorry, let me restate that. To appoint you as a servant and a witness of what you have seen and will see of me. I will rescue you from your people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, and that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a share among those who are sanctified by faith in me. Remember how we talked about before how a regular Jew would get angry if they found out that God was their God, the Jewish God, was even slightly doing something nice for the Gentiles? For those who are more zealous of the faith, it gets way more intense, this anger against those things. So Paul, who at that time was Saul, who had been brought up in the most zealous sect of the church and was chasing down these Christians to kill them just because they said that Jesus was the Messiah. For him, and this shows this conversion and the depth of this conversion, in that even in this moment, when God says, I will rescue you from your people and the Gentiles, I am sending you to them, the Gentiles, and to his own people, to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. He's talking about Jews here too. Why? So that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a share among those who are sanctified by faith in me. This would have been a deeply shocking and almost painful thing for him to understand. Surely God is for the Jews. He's the Jewish God. But to also hear that he's offering the same thing to the Gentiles, the same people that they typically hated, the same people who had persecuted them from place to place wherever they had gone, to now see that God is on their side as well. This shows the depth of this conversion. Verse 19. So then, King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to this heavenly vision. Instead, I preached to those in Damascus at the first, and to those in Jerusalem and in the region of Judea, and to the Gentiles, that they should repent and turn to God, and to do works worthy of or keeping in repentance. For this reason, the Jews seized me in the temple and were trying to kill me. To this very day, I have had help from God, as God promised to him. And I stand and testify both to small and great, saying nothing other than what the prophets and Moses said would take place. that the Messiah would suffer, and that, as the first to rise from the dead, he would proclaim light to our people and to the Gentiles. As he was saying these things in his defense, Festus exclaimed in a loud voice, You're out of your mind, Paul. Too much study is driving you mad. But Paul replied, I am not out of my mind, most excellent Festus. On the contrary, I'm speaking words of truth and good judgment. For the king knows about these matters, and I can speak boldly to him. For I am convinced that none of these things has escaped his notice, since this was not done somewhere in a corner. It was done in Jerusalem. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you believe. Agrippa said to Paul, Are you trying to persuade me to become a Christian so easily? I wish before God, replied Paul, that whether easily or with difficulty, not only you, but all who listen to me today might become as I am, except for these chains. The king, the governor, Bernice, and those sitting with them got up. And when they had left, there we go, making sure we don't lose any notes. And when they left, they talked with one another and said, This man is not doing anything to deserve death or imprisonment. And Agrippa said to Festus, This man could have been released if he had not appealed to Caesar. All right, that is all for now. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.